everybody, welcome to STEM Live. We have got an incredible lesson for you today. My name is Sally Ann Spence and I'm in London. Right here is the River Thames, and if you look here you will see the London Eye, so you know that I'm right here by the river itself, because we're going to be talking about sewage today. We're going to take you off to see a super sewer. You're going to be learning what happens after you flush. So we've got some lovely learning objectives for you. We're going to be finding out why the sewage systems are essential, because they really are. We're going to be finding out how they're built. I'm really looking forward to taking you down to the super sewer to see that. Then we're going to be finding out how we measure the health of the river, which is really important. Out here we've got this beautiful river and we want to keep it nice and healthy for everything that lives in it. We're going to be also discovering what happens at wastewater treatment areas. And we're going to find out how modern sewers are constructed. So we've got an awful lot to get through on this lesson. I can't wait to start. Don't forget, you can hashtag us STEMLive on Twitter and send in those photos and take part as well. We've got lots of questions and things for you to do today using your Slido. Let's go and see who we can find. I've just been joined by our first expert. This is Dina. Hi, Dina.
Hello.
Can you tell us what you do here?
So I'm an operations manager working for Thames Water, and in my team are people who look after pumping stations and sewers that basically pump sewage.
So you're pumping the sewage. So sewage is all the poo and the wee, everything that goes down the loo makes our sewage, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yes. Anything you flush down the toilet ends up at my pumping station, and that's sewage.
So this is a really, really important job. And there's a history to the sewage and its relationship to the River Thames, isn't there?
Absolutely. So in about the 1850s, the River Thames was used as an open sewer. Ooh. So all of London's poo and waste was being flushed into the river, and that caused a lot of disease, but also it caused a really, really bad smell, and at the time that was called the Great Stink.
So can you imagine that? The River Thames was pretty much a river full of poo, and it must have stunk so bad. In fact, I think it stunk so bad that Queen Victoria went out for a pleasure cruise and had to quickly come back because the smell was so bad.
Completely unbearable. You couldn't walk around without holding your nose.
Oh golly. And how was people getting ill then? Because obviously the sewage is out there in the river. How were they getting ill? Were they bathing in it or drinking it? What was happening?
It was, yeah, when they would drink the water from the river, they would get cholera.
Oh good Lord. Because I suppose a lot of people would have been very poor at that time and they wouldn't have had water coming from taps. So they would have literally had to go to the water, scoop it out and then drink that water full of sewage. Oh golly, so a lot of people must have been dying at that point, so something had to be done then?
Absolutely. So Sir Joseph Bazalgette, a pioneer engineer of his time, designed the sewerage system for London, 82 miles of brick-lined sewers beneath London that dealt with the problem. And because of his designs, he saved countless lives and dealt with the problem of sewage going into the river.
Now, I was told that he might have saved more lives during the Victorian period than any other person. That's incredible.
Absolutely unbelievable. For his designs for the sewer system to have such an impact on the lives of London and the health of the River Thames.
And do we have a memorial or anything to him? Because, I mean, he's done something incredible here.
We are right next to the Sir Joseph Bazalgette Memorial. So if you ever come to London, come to the Embankment and have a look at his memorial.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for telling us about that, Dina. I can imagine the smell must have been awful. Really must have been. So now it is time for you to have a go at a multiple choice. You're going to look at your Slido on your screens and we want to know, what do you think would be the biggest contributing factor to the Great Stink? I'm on the Queen Hithe foreshore and it's an incredible place. You've probably heard of William Shakespeare, and behind me is the Globe Theatre. Look at that, it's incredible. And with me is Toby. Hi Toby.
Hi there.
Now Toby, you're with Thames 21. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So Thames 21 is a river charity. We're part of the wider Rivers Trust movement, and we've been working on the tidal Thames for about 30 years now. Initially we started as a charity that just picked up litter, but over the years we've grown and grown, and we've become a charity that collects data on the litter that we pick up, and also sampling the health of the river.
So that's a really important job, isn't it? All the litter and everything. So our Thames Water, how are they involved with you as well?
We have a big project called the Thames River Watch, and that's where we sample all the litter on the Thames. We sample across 8 sites across London, and Thames Water, they fund that. So with the sampling, we do a mixture of quadrat sampling and bulk sampling. So,
right, can you tell us a little bit more? We want to know what quadrant sampling is and bulk sampling. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
So on different parts of the river, we get different types of litter. When the litter is very heavy, it sinks, or when it gets full of mud, it sinks. And on those parts of the river, we do bulk sampling. So we take a massive area and we'll pick up as much litter in that area as possible, and we'll count all those little bits of litter and see what we find. When the litter floats, for instance on this site right here, things like water bottles and things like that, we'll do quadrats, so small 1 metre by 1 metre squares, and we'll just measure straight in a line and see what we find in that line within those squares there.
Because we all know we shouldn't drop litter. We know that that's a really bad thing to do. What about things that you flush down the loo?
So that's a really good point. Most of the litter we find, or about 50% I'd say, is sewage-derived litter, so things that come from the sewers. And this is probably the biggest thing we find are wet wipes. And this happens because when it rains lots and lots, the sewers, which usually take all the sewage to treatment plants, they have to overflow somewhere. So unfortunately, on these occasions when it rains lots and lots, the sewage overflows into the Thames. And that's why we find lots of things like wet wipes which come from the sewers.
So if you were telling everybody right now who's watching this what they should put down the loo only.
Yep. Don't put anything down the loo apart from what comes out your body and toilet paper. That's it.
All right. So remember that. What comes out your body and toilet paper, that's all down the loo, because otherwise it's a real problem for this area. So you are surveying the health of the river as well, the River Thames.
So we used to work with citizen scientists to look at water quality, and now a lot of the water quality testing is done by the Environment Agency. So there's 8 probes that the Environment Agency owns that are along the River Thames, or the tidal Thames, which is the Thames within London. And these basically measure pH, temperature, and oxygen, or dissolved oxygen in the water. Dissolved oxygen is really important because this is how all the fish and other organisms living in the water survive. They need oxygen, right? And another really bad thing about this sewage that ends up in the river sometimes is that lots of bacteria like to eat all the poo and gross organic things in the sewage, and they use this oxygen up. They take this oxygen from the water and they use it to break down all this organic matter, which means there's less dissolved oxygen for the fish. And this is made even worse on hot days, because on hot days when the water is warmer, there's even less dissolved oxygen. So in summer, when we get lots of rain and the water's really warm, there's very low levels of dissolved oxygen, which can be really dangerous for fish in the water.
So you just keep monitoring it, making sure that it's all going okay.
Exactly. But it's not all doom and gloom. The quality of the water in the Thames is actually not as bad as many people think. It's improved massively since the 1950s. In the 1950s, the Thames was declared biologically dead, and really bad, but it's improved massively. We've seen huge amounts of fish return to the river. We have 127 fish that have been recorded in the River Thames. So it's definitely not all doom and gloom. We're seeing the health of the river return, for sure.
And we're going to be going to look at the super sewer soon.
Exactly, yes.
And that's going to make things even better, isn't it, for the river?
We're very lucky in London because we have this super sewer coming in, which is a massive project. And essentially it means that when there is lots of high rainfall and a lot of this sewage ends up in the Thames. That won't happen anymore. Most of that sewage, about 95%, that goes into the river during high rainfall events will end up in this super sewer, the tideway super sewer. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think there's a really important message from you as well, is that, you know, be very aware of what you put down the loo. No rubbish down the loo whatsoever, because it ends up here causing all sorts of problems potentially, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's the thing. Now I'm going off to see the super sewer. I'm very excited about this.
Yeah.
Where will I be going? What direction will I be going?
Down that way.
So I'll be going over that way.
You'll be going over there to have a look.
While I do that, I want you to have a go at a word cloud now. Make sure you have a go. Lots of things we want to ask you and for you to take part in today. So have a go at the word cloud now. This is so exciting. I'm in a lift, but I'm not in an ordinary lift. I'm actually inside of like a cage being lifted by this crane. I don't know if you can see it through here, but we've got a crane that's taking us up, and we're going to go down to the super sewer. We're going to go 40 meters down in this it's safe. It is very safe. I'm going to say that now. It's very safe, but my goodness me, it's very different to a normal lift. And we're going to go down 40 meters. That is the same as a 10-story high building. So we're going right down now into where they're building the super sewer. This is such a privilege. Here we're going down. We're literally going down now. I'm so excited. I'm being plunged down to a hole. Can you see all around me? We're going right down into this huge concrete sided hole. I'm so excited. And we got to start thinking about how they actually move the sewage around as well. So they use pumping stations to do that. And I think right now is a good time to go and have a look at a pumping station. And I will join you again when I'm down here at the bottom in the super sewer. And I'm here. I'm at the Abbey Mills pumping station. This incredible Victorian building is also known as the Palace of Poo. So I think we ought to go and find out a little bit more about it. Let's go and see Dina. Look at this magnificent building. Dina, it is a beautiful building. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Of course, it's fantastic. So this is Abbey Mills pumping station. It was built in the 1860s after the Great Stink in London, where London was basically an open sewer, lots of disease and cholera. And Sir Joseph Bazalgette designed the London sewerage system, where 82 miles of brickwork sewers was built.
82 miles?
82 miles. And they are still in pristine condition. At the time, he designed it for a population of 4 million. Back then, there were 2 million people in London, so he had the foresight to cope with an increase of population. Whereas now, we know there's many more people in London than that. As a result of that sewerage system, we then designed, I say we, back then, Sir Joseph Bazalgette and Charles Driver, who's the architect of this amazing pumping station, designed pumping stations to basically lift the sewage up from the sewers into the big northern outfall sewer onto Beckton for treatment.
So that's what they were doing. So when Driver designed this, I mean, he's the reason why all this beautiful metalwork and all this hugely decorative artwork is here.
Yes. It was, this pumping station was completed in 1868, It took 3 years to build at a cost of the time of around £250,000.
Which is a lot of money back then. That's a lot of money.
Yes, and the equipment in it was about £60,000. And there were 300 people working at the pumping station in 2 shifts.
Golly, how many work here now?
2.
2. So 300 people back then and 2 people now.
So there's 2 technicians who work here Monday to Friday and run this place and look after it and yeah, keep it going.
Well, it's a fantastic building, but what's its actual function? We know it's a pumping station. How does it work?
So it only runs when we get rainfall, so storms, because we have another pumping station on this site that runs all the time. But when we need a boost and more power, Abbey Mills pumping station comes on. This is known as A station because it was the first on site. And there are 8 pumps here, and they lift the sewage and pump it up to the northern outfall sewer. And when all the pumps are running in this pumping station, we pump 20,000 litres a second of sewage to Beckton Sewage Treatment Works. 20,000 litres a second.
So that's 20,000 litres of sewage a second. That's how much sewage this whole station can move when it's running. Wow.
That's a lot of sewage.
That is a lot of poo. Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Golly. Well, it's fantastic. And what's its future? What's happening now? Because you're saying that our population has grown so huge in London. Can this station cope? What's going to happen in the future?
So back in 1998, F station was opened, and that's the one I mentioned before that runs all the time. So that's how we future-proofed the pumping side of things. But when it comes to the sewer network, London's population is what, 8-9 million now. The sewer network can't cope with that size of population. So as future-proofing, we're building the Tideway tunnel that's being built right now.
Wow, so there's a lot still going on, but this still has its place. It's been here all this time. It's still going to stay here in the future.
It's still going strong.
Just need bigger pipes.
Yes, exactly.
Because there were rivers, or there are underground rivers, aren't there, under London, that were being used as a sewage, but not anymore.
That's right. And that was what led to lots of diseases and cholera at the time. Sewage was being discharged into the River Thames. The great stink. Houses of Parliament, MPs couldn't bear the smell, and that's when something got done about it.
Well, it's fantastic. It's just such a beautiful building. It really is a palace of poo, isn't it? It's fantastic.
Yes. Local kids call it Poo Palace, otherwise also known as the Cathedral of Sewage.
Well, it
is like a cathedral.
It is absolutely beautiful. Well, it is time now for you all to take part in a question. And the question is, and I want everybody to have a go at this, the question is, what did Bazalgette do to make the sewage system last for so long and cope with a much larger population? So have a think and answer your question. We made it, we're down at the bottom. That was so exciting. It was very safe, but very exciting. Gonna come through here. It was great just to chat to Dina a minute ago at the Abbey Mills pumping station. We're going to be meeting her again when we do the questions and answers at the end of this lesson. Keep thinking of those questions that you can ask our experts as well. We want to see more and more questions coming in. And the answer, as we're talking about questions and answers, the answer to the last one that you did was actually C. He doubled the size of the pipes, and he did that because he knew he'd have to increase the volume of sewage as the population grew. So we're going to go up here because right now I want to show you this incredible construction. I mean, this is such a privilege to be here. You're not normally allowed to be in places like this. This is a huge construction site. But this is a super sewer. And it's massive. It's 25 kilometres long. And we're going to be learning a lot more about that in a minute. But first, we're going to go over to Reading, because at Reading they have their laboratories, and that is where they start doing a lot of the testing on the water. And here we are at the Fobney Water Treatment Works. We're going to find out a lot more about how they test the water to make sure it's clean and safe for us to drink. And there's scientists working here 365 days of the year. That includes Christmas Day. So let's go and meet one of them to find out some more. Now, you'll remember we met Toby earlier on the foreshore of the Thames, and he was telling us how important it was that we keep our rivers clean. Well, I'm actually in the laboratories at Thames Water now with Alex. And Alex, you're the person who measures our water, don't you? You actually check it for the cleanliness.
Yeah, so that's something that's really important for us. If you drink water just out of the rivers or just out of the chalk aquifers, which is where we mainly get our water from, it's not really of the right quality to drink. So we do a lot of things to kind of test to see what the quality is like, and a lot of different treatment processes to make sure it's of a sufficient quality.
Brilliant. Can you show us one of those?
Yeah, sure. So this is an example of water from the river.
Would you want to drink that? It doesn't look very nice now, does it? I don't think so.
You've got anything that's washed into the river, mud, particles, you definitely wouldn't want to drink that. And what our job is to make sure that we're filtering out all of those particles. So we might do that through sedimentation, where all of the particles drop out over time in big storage tanks, or we might use a filter. So filters, if you imagine a sieve in your kitchen, we've essentially got giant sieves, but the pore sizes are reduced so small that they take out microbiology and bacteria. So we're managing to take that out. And then we would look to disinfect the water to remove any further bacteria.
So can you show us one of the tests that you do?
Sure. So this is if this is the river water, we'll do a test there on that to see what the quality's like, and then this is an example of clean drinking water, and we'll do a test there on that. And what we're doing here is just shining a light through the water, and we know how much light we're putting in, and we know how much light we'd expect on the other end, and any particles and bits in the water block that light, so we can tell what the quality is like. So this river water, that's got a turbidity of 101. That would not be anywhere near acceptable for us. And we'll have a look at this clean drinking water in a moment, but we would expect that to be under 1 NTU, which is the unit for turbidity. So when that comes back, that's about 0.2. So that would be acceptable as clean drinking water.
Brilliant. So this is really, really important, isn't it? Because we must make sure our water is healthy to drink.
Absolutely, yeah. So everything that we're putting out the door, we're making sure is clean and disinfected, and it's wholesome for the customers to drink.
So we were talking earlier on about what you mustn't flush down the loo. So we were saying you must only flush what comes out of your body, and also toilet paper, and that is it, okay? But we were thinking about the cleanliness of our rivers and how important that is. Things that other people might put down the drains could come from your kitchens and places like that?
Yeah, so oils and fats, here at Thames we say bin it, don't block it, and that helps prevent nasty build-ups within the sewers.
Well, we were thinking about this, you see, because you get in the sewers, they get blockages, and you can get your fats and all these things, wet wipes we're talking about as well, inside the sewers, and they produce these huge fatbergs. I think that's what they're called, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Fatbergs are rather nasty to get rid of. It's where everything mixes together and just blocks up the sewer lines.
And that's a big problem.
That's a huge problem, yes. So bin it, don't block it is our strong message.
Right, so we've got a question for you now, thinking about the biggest fatberg they ever removed from the sewers under London. I want you to think how heavy it was. How much did it weigh? That was really interesting in the laboratories, wasn't it? And I hope you all took part in the question. The answer is D, 130 tonnes. So imagine a fatberg that big, 130 tonnes. So well done to everybody who got that right. Now I'm in the tunnel and I'm with Taylor, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about this incredible construction. Hi Taylor.
Hello.
What's your job here?
Well, I work for Tideway, which is the company building the super sewer, which is where we are now.
It is a massive construction project, isn't it? Why are you building it and what's it going to do?
So London has a problem. So the sewer system in London is 150 years old. It's Victorian. It's still in very good condition, but it just can't cope with the modern day population. So it was built to cope with 4 million people. There are now 9 million people living in London, and we've paved over so much of the city that almost every time it rains, the sewers fill up, the rain mixes with the raw sewage, and rather than it back up into homes and streets, it spills into the River Thames. So when it was first built, this was quite rare. It happened once or twice a year, but because of the problems I outlined, this happens very frequently, once a week on average, and that's around 40 million tonnes of raw sewage that spills directly into the Thames.
Gosh, so we need to stop that, don't we?
We do need to stop that, so that's where we come in. So Tideway is building the super sewer, which is where we are now, and what we're doing is intercepting those spill points, diverting them into this tunnel and cleaning up the River Thames.
Brilliant, so there shouldn't be any sewage at all going into the River Thames once this is functioning?
Very, very little.
Fantastic. So talking about this being a functional tunnel, when this gets sewage in it, when it is opened, is the sewage actually going to go to the top of this tunnel?
Yes.
My goodness.
So this time next year, there's a chance that this might be full to the brim with sewage.
So this time next year, when this tunnel is open, Taylor and I will actually be under a lot of sewage. How much sewage would we be under if we were still stood in here?
Well, loads. I mean, this is 7.2 metres wide. The entire tunnel is 25 kilometres long. So, and it has a capacity of 1.6 million cubic metres, which is a lot of sewage.
1.6 million cubic metres.
Yes.
That is a lot of sewage, okay? That is an awful lot of poo that will be coming roaring through this tunnel when it's in function. Now, Taylor, when you were drilling this tunnel, does it take just one drill? What type of machine do you use?
Well, we have massive machines, which we call tunnel boring machines, or TBMs. We used 6 to build this tunnel and its connection tunnels. We use so many because the geology changes in London. So where we are now, in West London, it's mostly clay. In central London, we tunnelled through mostly sands and gravels, and then when you get further east, where we're much deeper, it's chalk. So those 3 geologies require a different tunnelling methodology, basically a different type of tunnelling for each geology. So that's why we use so many.
So when they were actually drilling the tunnel, they were going through different types of geology. Clay, which is that really sticky mud, and then through the sort of sands and gravels, which you'll see on a beach and in your sand pit, and then straight through chalk. When chalk is that white rock that you can even write on chalkboards with, can't you? So that's what they were going through. So 3 very different things to go through, and you needed different drills to do that.
Exactly. So we have 6 machines in total.
6 machines in total, wow. And when are you thinking or hoping to open this incredible structure?
Well, as you can see, most of it is finished. So from next year, we'll begin testing that it works, and that essentially means bringing in raw sewage to make sure everything works as planned. So from next year, the river will be getting cleaner, and then we hope to sign it off, and it'll be fully operational in 2025, so 2 years from now.
Wow, and for those of you, just a little message to everybody watching this, what should they do? You shouldn't put anything down the loo other than what's come out of your body and toilet paper.
That's exactly right.
So remember that, and all of that waste, all that sewage is going to come straight through this incredible tunnel. It's amazing construction, it is absolutely huge. So I hope you've been listening, because the next question we're asking you, Taylor actually gave us the answer too, so I hope you were listening. We would like to know how many different types of tunnel boring machines do they need to build this structure? Well, that was really incredible. I've made it back to the surface and I'm here by the River Thames. We're finishing up by the River Thames, which is a fantastic river, and we've learnt so much about it today. But before we talk a little bit more about what we've been learning, I want you to think about the last question, and those of you who got it right, because I hope you all took part. The answer was A. It takes 6 tunnel boring machines to have built this incredible structure. So let's just think about the things we've learned and the people we've met today. Dina taught us all about the Great Stink and the history behind sewage in the River Thames. We also met her again when we went to the pumping station at Abbey Mills, and we learnt about those incredible feat of Victorian engineering that actually lifts the sewage up to another level so it can continue its journey. We also met Toby, who's Thames 21, and he spoke to us on the foreshore about the health of the river and how they're monitoring it so they can hopefully see it improve once this huge super sewer is opened. Also, we've been to the Reading laboratories and we had a look at testing the water, how they actually monitor the water and the quality of the water, and we talked a little bit about fatbergs. And remember what we said earlier, be very careful what you put down your toilets. Before you flush, make sure it's just comes out of your body and that toilet paper, nothing more. We don't want to clog up the system with rubbish. And then finally, we spent that incredible time down in the super sewer itself with Taylor. And he actually told me that we are probably one of the very last people to be going down there before it starts being tested and then it's opened. So what a huge privilege it has been to go down there. I hope you've really enjoyed today. I hope you've now thought of lots of questions that you can ask us, because it's our questions and answers with several members of those team next. So think about those questions, start sending them in now, because everybody's really excited and can't wait to answer them. Wow, haven't we had an incredible lesson? What an amazing things we've seen. And with me now, back here in Abbey Mills pumping station, I've got everybody we've been chatting to. So welcome back. And we're going to go straight into your questions because you have thought of so many questions. I'm hoping we can get through most of them, if not all of them. Let's have a go. So we're going to start straight away with this one. Who created London's first sewage system? And that's from Play Douay. I hope I've spelt that correctly. That's from school in Jersey. And I'm wondering, you should know the answer by now, that it was Joseph Bazalgette, but can you tell us any more, Dina?
Yes, well, we've just seen, yes, it was Sir Joseph Bazalgette who designed the amazing sewerage system. And I just want to say, in front of me here is the first Abbey Mills visitors book. And the first entry in this book is from 1869. And Sir Joseph Bazalgette's descendants are in here, lots of engineers. Queen Victoria has visited Abbey Mills, and King Charles, who was then Prince Charles, also visited Abbey Mills to celebrate its 150th anniversary.
So quite a lot of dignitaries, important people have been to the sewage plant, or to the pumping station, haven't they? The Palace of Poo.
Indeed.
Palace of Poo, right, let's have another look and see what else we've got. Here's a good question. In fact, this is a really good question for you, Toby. Are there dolphins in the River Thames?
Occasionally we do see dolphins that will maybe get a bit lost and swim up the estuary. I think one went all the way to Battersea once. Wow. We also get seals, lots of other large mammals like seals and porpoises. There's now 125 to 127 fish species that we find in the Thames, so lots of fish, and those numbers have massively increased. I think I talked about that earlier. Massively increased since the 50s. We get lots of birds, herons, we get
cormorants sometimes, we get all sorts of bird species, we get lots of little critters as well, we get crabs, we get freshwater shrimp, we get all sorts of lots of
Different things.
varied wildlife. It's really, really diverse, and it's really, really a lot more, there's a lot more wildlife than people think. Yeah.
Have we had otters in the River Thames
There
yet?
have been some otters in the River Thames, yeah, but
Oh, wow.
not common, yeah.
Not common. So if you come to London and you're walking along the River Thames, keep your eye out because there's an awful lot of wildlife there, obviously.
Yeah.
Let's have a look and see what else we got here. We've got some brilliant questions. This is one for you, Taylor. This is a brilliant question here. How are you going to maintain the super sewer?
Wow. Okay, so it will need maintaining. It's an important piece of infrastructure, and we are currently experimenting with how that might happen. So we might use robots, or we might use drones. We may use people, but we don't want to do that. So yeah, probably robots.
Right. And why would you not want to use people in that part of the sewer?
Well, it's very deep, and there are sewage flows, as you will have seen, so it can be very dangerous. So we much prefer not to send people in there. Yeah, so it's much safer to put a robot down there.
So it might be robots and drones that are maintaining the sewer. That's quite impressive. All right, let's have a look. Fatbergs. A lot of you have asked questions about fatbergs. I think you're all quite fascinated with fatbergs. And I'm wondering, Taylor, can you tell us a little bit more about fatbergs and what the future is with the big sewer? Are we going to find fatbergs in the super sewer?
We think probably not. The super sewer is so huge, as you will have just seen, and fatbergs generally build up with kind of wet wipes or other kind of litter that ends up in getting caught on bits of the old sewer, and then fat kind of builds up round them. We don't think that's going to be a problem with the super sewer because it is so big and it's so smooth, and gravity will take those flows away, so we don't think it's going to be a problem.
So the fatbergs shouldn't be a problem, but we don't want fatbergs anyway, do we? That's the
Definitely
thing.
not.
So remember that. Just put down the toilet. What did we say we're going to put down the toilet?
The 3 Ps,
The 3 Ps.
poo, pee and paper.
So poo, pee and paper, okay? Let's not have fatbergs. Right, let's have another look at here. Here's a good question for all three of you. How did you get into your job? Oh, who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Go on,
Yeah, so I started at Thames in 2012. I was working in the energy team, and as part of my job, I got to go to Beckton Sewage Treatment Works, and I was just fascinated by it. That was operations, and I really wanted a job there. And I did get a job as site manager at Beckton in 2016, and I've been in waste ever since, dealing with poo, and I love sewage. So yeah.
Okay, that's a great answer. And what about you, Toby?
I guess as a kid I wanted to be David Attenborough, like most kids seem to want to be. So I studied zoology at university and realised, oh wow, I get to work outside if I do something like this, and then did lots of volunteering in conservation and working with trees and rivers and things like that, and that's where I am today, working with rivers.
Working with rivers and for the conservation of the river too.
Yes, yeah.
Taylor, how about your job?
Well, I trained as a journalist and a writer, and I made films, so I was interested in telling stories. And then, so in 2017, I had the opportunity to come and work in the middle of London on this amazing environmental project and use all those skills to tell the story of the super sewer, like we're doing today. So.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, all of you. Let's go to another question. Gosh, we have got loads of questions. Well done, everyone. Where does water go once it has been cleaned? And this is from St Margaret's in Plumstead.
So when we treat sewage, we put it back into the river once it's cleaned. But I also just want to stress that the water that people drink, clean drinking water, that's a separate process, a separate system for treating water that people drink.
Right. Okay. That's a good question and answer. Let's have a look what else we've got here. Connor from the Elms in Hawthorne. Hello, Connor. You want to know, how do the workers adapt to the strong smell? We've got lots of questions about the smell. Everybody wants to know, how bad does it smell? What does it smell like? And Connor wants to know, how do you adapt to the strong smell?
It's a good question. So it takes getting used to, but when you get used to it, there's different smells at different stages of the wastewater treatment process. So fresh sewage, it smells a bit fresh, but then as it gets treated, it can smell quite earthy. So there's different stages, and you just get used to it when you work with it all the time.
Yeah, I must admit, because we've been everywhere today, and obviously here at the pumping station, and I can't smell it at all, really. I mean, it's pretty much locked up in all those pipes, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, right, let's have a look what we've got. Alder at the Elms wants to know, what animals live in the sewer? What animals do we think live in the sewer? Are there any animals that live in the sewer at all?
Well, in the super sewer, obviously it's not on yet. We're going to be switching it on next year, so we don't have any kind of rats or anything like that in there yet. But we do get pigeons flying all the way down, kind of 50 metres underground, perching on the kind of the railings and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's what's in our sewer at the moment. But,
and they'll move back out, won't they, when the sewer starts running, presumably?
Exactly. Yes.
Anything running along your pipes here?
In the existing sewer system, yes, there's you find rats mainly, yes.
So there might be some rats down there.
Yes.
So there might be some rats that live down the sewer. And they'll be feeding on all the bits and pieces that go down there, I presume.
Yes.
Right, okay, let's have another look at another question. This one is, why do people actually go into the sewers? So when do we have people in the sewers, and what sort of jobs would they be doing?
So my team do that job. We have to go in there because we've got infrastructure below ground that we have to fix, that we have to inspect, make sure it's working properly. So we have to go in there and do that job. Yeah, make sure everything's working properly.
Everything's going through the sewer, so
Yeah.
everything's got to work. So it's pretty much sort of maintenance work, really, isn't it? That
Exactly,
they're doing?
exactly.
And they'll all be in their high vis and everything, just the same as we were.
Yes.
Quite a lot of PPE to put on. Right, let's have a look what else we've got. What happens to toilet paper? This is from Windmill Primary. Well done. That's a good question. What happens to toilet paper? So we've flushed it down the loo. What happens next?
So it goes through the sewage system and it degrades. So it gets all mushed up as with the poo and then gets treated. And that's why we say pee, poo and paper, because toilet paper does degrade and we can treat it. Anything else we can't treat.
Right, okay, so remember that, just toilet paper that degrades. We have sadly only got time for one more question. You have sent in so many questions today. You've been absolutely brilliant. I've been really, really pleased with the questions. And the very last question I'm going to be able to ask is, it's a very good question actually, what are the best things about the sewers? Well, I think all three of you can have a go at answering that.
So it takes away our poo. And it's an amazing legacy of engineering, a feat of engineering, beautiful architecture, and does what it's supposed to do, and was built such a long time ago. What an amazing feat of engineering.
Brilliant. Yeah.
I'd say for me, the best thing about the sewers is probably the fact that it helps keep our rivers clean for all our wildlife and everyone to enjoy and to use.
I would say that, well, sewers smell, obviously, and so I think the best thing about sewers is how they are deep underground.
Yeah. Yes, because we all do produce poo. It's got to go somewhere. We've got to deal with it, haven't we? Well, it's really the end of the lesson, and I'm very sorry it's the end of the lesson because I've had a fantastic time today. What an experience we've had. What a privilege we've had as well to go the places we've been. I would like to thank, because we've obviously got to thank everybody here. We've got Taylor, we've got Toby, and we've got Dina, so I'd like to thank all of you for being with us today. Also, I'd like to thank Thames Water, Tideway, and Thames 21 for inviting us and allowing us to see everything. Now, don't forget, on Thursday, the 12th of October, is our next lesson, where we're going to be going to Suez, and we're going to be learning about how you can recycle rubbish and make energy. So we're going to be learning about that as well. So all that remains for us to do now is say goodbye. But before we say goodbye, you've got a message, haven't you, that you want to tell the children. Can you tell us the message? It's bin it.
Bin it, don't block it.
Right, so I want all of you, are you listening to this? We're going to say it one more time.
Bin it, don't block it.
So right now, we're going to say it the final time, and I want all of you in your classrooms, wherever you are, to shout out, bin it,
don't block it.
All right, so that's our message from today. So I hope you had a great lesson, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.